Well, welcome everyone to episode 7, season 3, Hit It Where They Mow, Talking Golf in Texas. And we have a very special guest today. And the name of this particular episode is Convert Me, Please. Because if there's one thing I detest, it's personal trainers. And he's more than that. Kevin Hay is my guest. He is a personal trainer, but he's also a golf instructor and golf coach. But he knows how to get someone in better shape where they can play better golf. So we're going to have fun talking to Kevin Hay. But before we get started, I want to remind you that this program is brought to you by 4 wonderful sponsors. And I want to mention my 2 golf courses first this time. I want to mention that Dornick Hills Country Club is only 90 minutes north of the Metroplex in Ardmore, Oklahoma. It was built on the farmland of the great Perry Maxwell, one of the great golf designers in golf, who designed Prairie Dunes in Hutchinson, Kansas. Also did some renovative work at Augusta National. Gives you some idea of his pedigree. Also, of course, Southern Hills of Tulsa. Well, it's a little Southern Hills, and you can get there in 90 minutes, and they have wonderful deals on non-resident memberships. So Google Dornick Hills in Ardmore, Oklahoma, and check it out. And if you just want to take a foursome up there and play, call the golf shop and see about getting set up for a round of golf up there. And then near and dear to my heart as an East Texan, the Tempest Golf Club in Longview, about 2 miles off Interstate 20, 2-hour drive from the Metroplex. But East Texas golf as it was meant to be, towering pines, water, rolling hills. And Randy Wade and the fine folks over at the TempestGolfClub.com. You can book tee times there. It's very affordable for the quality of the course. It's very scenic, and it's a perfect destination for a stay and play package. And my corporate sponsors, what would I do without them? Well, we wouldn't have this show, and that is Veritex Bank, Veritex Community Bank, the Golf Bank of Texas. Perfect for your personal banking needs and small commercial lending. Malcolm Holland, Martin Thomas, and the group over there, wonderful people to work with. Veritex Community Bank. They also sponsor some golfers you may have heard of, like Scotty Scheffler and Cheyenne Knight on the LPGA Tour, and Sam Bennett and more. Just a great bank. And last but certainly not least is Niagara Conservation, which is a plumbing company, low flow plumbing fixtures. I like to say avoid the water hazards on the course and at home. And here's Tricia to tell you more about Niagara Conservation.
Thanks, Pat. And thanks, Niagara, for your continuing support of nonprofit affordable housing projects. Are you looking for top quality bathroom fixtures that save water without compromising performance? Well, look no further than Niagara. With over 15 industry awards in just this past year, their toilets, bidets, and shower heads are the real deal. Plus, they come in various styles, like ADA heights, elongated and round bowl shapes, and they utilize Niagara's patented stealth technology.
Well, it gives me a lot of pleasure to talk to Kevin Hay. And, I was hitting balls out at the Highlands Performance Golf Center, and I saw a guy down the line who had the same hair color as I do. And I thought, I've seen that golf swing before. And it was your dad, Joe Hay. And Joe and I are contemporaries. And I remember Joe all the way back to his days of playing with Wade Adams out at Northwood Club. And then I come to find out that you're his son, and your picture's on the wall up there at the Performance Center. So you give golf instruction, but you also are a bit of a fitness guru or trainer.
Yes, sir.
And I found out you work with a friend of mine who beats me consistently on the golf course, Mr. Doug Rohn, and Doug was singing your praises, and so here you are. Tell us a little bit about your bio, if you will, how you came to teach golf and also specialize in golf fitness.
Absolutely. So obviously growing up with my dad, junior golf was definitely a big part of my life. As I progressed through the years, I started to have some aches and pains as a young golfer, practicing a ton, moving around a ton, and obviously trying to hit the ball very far, as the modern game kind of demands. And, you know, later in high school, I ended up kind of traumatizing my lumbar spine, having 2 discs that kind of were bulging and sort of not at the same time. And, you know, that kind of ended what I would say my competitive, you know, college sort of opportunities at the time. You know, I couldn't really swing the way I wanted to. I'm not sure how to, you know, be as competitive as I wanted to be. And, you know, I had the privilege to play alongside guys like Will Zalatoris, guys like Tucker Watkins, Lanny Watkins, you know, so that was a lot of fun, you know, seeing that caliber of golf and wanting to play that caliber of golf. But my body sort of defeated me there. So went to college, got a pre-med degree, was thinking I was going to med school. After college, I sort of enrolled in chiropractic school at Parker University here. And, you know, I wanted to take a step back and see what I really wanted to do, because I wasn't sold that chiropractic was where I wanted to be. And so that's when I kind of found Amped Golf Performance, which Damon Goddard, as you had on the show, you know, he was our lead trainer at the time, and got to spend a lot of time with him just learning. And, you know, from there, I sort of started my own practice up in Frisco. But that's kind of what brought me to trying to share pain-free golf. So I'm pain-free. I love playing golf still, but, you know, my own injuries sort of prompted me to get into corrective exercise and therapy that way.
So you were experiencing pain in your back as a teenager?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Playing golf.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure.
But, you know, I think a lot of us don't really, of my age, don't really grasp what you're saying, because, you know, I look at, when I learned to play golf, you imitate good golfers. And I looked at Gene Littler or Jack Nicklaus or Tom Weiskopf, because I'm tall. And they had beautiful flowing swings, and it was more of a rhythmic game. Now, a lot of us do have chronic issues with our lower back because of the, quote, reverse C finish. But when you're talking about the modern game, hit it as far as you can, find it, and wedge it on the green. So you were swinging pretty violently at the ball. Is that a way of saying it?
Absolutely. A lot of speed. I grew up in the Tiger era, watching him dominate and be a different type of athlete, right? Really changed the paradigm of what type of tour player we saw. And, you know, everyone wanted to be like Tiger back in those days, and arguably still a little bit so. But, you know, I definitely pushed it probably a little too far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now, before we move on, you mentioned Zalatoris, and we're not trying to pick on him, or we're not trying to, I don't know, but, you know, he's a young man, and he's having some serious issues. I don't know if he had surgery or kind of how he is fixing his back, but do you have any thoughts about his particular case? I know you want to be careful about it.
Well, sure. I think that, you know, what a brilliant ball striker. Yeah. You know, it's hard to compare Will, you know, to others with ball striking. I mean, he's always been such a beautiful swinger of the golf club. You know, it's hard to not point out that his swing does require a lot of extension in the way that he moves his body and uses his spine. And, you know, I'm sad to see him struggle at this early age, but I know he's in good hands.
Okay.
So he did have surgery, and I think he's you know, progressing pretty well. So I'm excited to see him come back. Yeah,
and just one thing about him, when Bernhard Langer is gaga about your golf game, you're pretty good. Because I remember they played together at the Masters when he was runner-up several years ago, and Langer said he said, man, he can really play. And that's a pretty good endorsement. Tell us a little bit about, Doug said it was fine to talk about him. It's my friend Doug Rohn, ladies and gentlemen. And Doug comes from a golfing family in Tyler. His cousins Ronnie and the late Craig Rohn and Dwayne Rohn were all good golfers. Ronnie played on the only state championship golf team to ever come out of Tyler in 1959. Robert E. Lee High School, now Legacy, was in its first year, and they won state. And Ronnie was like number 2 man or whatever. And so Doug comes from a good golfing background, but Doug is about my age, maybe a few years older, and he's still shooting in the low 70s. and occasionally I get into the high 70s. So I'm already impressed with his game, and then I found out that he's a client of yours, and he likes to come to you to, I guess, to get stronger or to get to feeling better. Or tell us a little bit about working with Doug and how that would relate to working with other people in their 60s and up, as far as age-wise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Doug came to me, with large former fashion, wanting to continue shooting his age and,
Yeah.
making sure his skills were sharp. And, we took an evaluation of his swing. What are his tendencies and what's his miss, and a lot of the times you can kind of see that just by hitting a few golf balls on the range. But we took him into the studio and we measured a lot of joint range of motions on the table. So in a passive setting, I'm just kind of sitting down or lying on the table, and we kind of see, hey, where are my joints at? Are they at the ranges of motion that we know like a tour player would be at, or are they just a little bit underneath where they need to be? And then from there, we can kind of see, hey, we need to work on this or that in that setting. And we do, sort of an active assessment. So I'm going to watch you swing a golf club. I'm going to put you through a large number of movements. And, TPI, or Titleist Performance Institute, is really, really prominent as far as golf trainers go. And, you can take a little bit of some of their movement screens, and they're really, really great at baseline. And so we do an active assessment, a passive assessment, and then I do a dynamic assessment. So we put you on a slow motion camera. We sort of watch how the joints are moving and relating to one another, because most of all in the golf swing, it's not just a one joint movement. We're not bicep curling this golf ball down the fairway.
So let's walk through those three different assessments again.
Sure.
Okay, active.
Yes.
You're hitting golf shots.
Active, so there's the golf swing, and then there's movement screens. So an active movement screen just means I'm going to be standing and trying to complete some motion that's going to tell me something about your body.
What do you mean complete the motion?
So like one of our active movement screens that's been used for a long time is like an overhead squat. So you have your hands extended over your head, and then you're going down into a squat pattern. And the squat pattern in itself...
That sounds very dangerous to me. No, you're not. You'll know one day. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the squat itself will tell me a little bit of how your joints move and what's happening underneath the hood of your body, if that makes sense.
For instance, I don't think I have squatted to read a putt in almost 15, 20 years.
Gotcha. And so in that case, we would do a different movement.
Okay.
We'd do a hinge pattern possibly. We'd alter the depth of that squat. We would change some form.
You just go
of
down
that.
as much as you can without
Correct.
having pain. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And if pain happens, then we cut the movement off, and that also tells us something, right?
Okay. Yeah, exactly. I know I have a pain in my right knee now, and so I have a neighbor who's Vietnamese, and I have other Asian friends, and if I can help it, I don't want to be cut on anymore.
Gotcha.
Because they make a good point and I don't know how you feel about this, but when people begin to cut on you, you've lost control. You're giving the control over to someone else. And I'm not saying there aren't great doctors that can't do great things, but that's kind of a last resort where you're in maybe chronic pain, you can't take it anymore. And what I learned about this knee is that my glutes would take a lot of pressure off my knee. Does that stand up for where you are? Okay.
It does.
Okay, and I realized that, and then they said, you think you may be working out your glutes and you're not. If you got a lot of pressure in your quads, you need to just do what you can. But anyway, everything's connected to everything, right? Yeah.
Well, that's exactly, kind of why I started my fitness company.
Okay.
So when I injured my back, I saw physical therapists, I saw chiropractors, orthopedics, everyone.
Okay.
Not anyone could really give me an explanation of what was going on and how to fix it.
Okay.
And, that helped me to dive in to kind of do my own research.
Okay.
And now, 10 years later, we have a lot more research now, which is awesome.
Right.
But we know that kinetic chains in your body will move pressures in different areas.
Okay.
We know that your posterior chain and your glutes are really going to take pressure off your knee. We know that now. And we can kind of map those forces and try and get your relationships of your joints to work better.
Okay. Okay. So you do the active assessment, how far can you squat or some other test, and then you're passive.
Yes. Yes. So
Tell
the
us about
nervous
that.
system is very interesting. If I introduce some more stability to your body, now if you're lying on a table, your brain feels a little more stable than if you're standing up.
Okay.
And because your brain feels a little bit more stable, you might get some different joint ranges of motion.
Wow. Wow.
So like someone might have, and it all just helps me to kind of try and figure out what's happening, right?
Okay.
Someone might have a restriction on their shoulder when they're standing up, but if they don't have that restriction when they're lying down, it tells me that that's not particularly a joint problem.
Okay.
Because the joint can do that motion. There's just a stability
logical.
problem, and it's probably a neurological thing that's happening there.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, it's kind of reading my mail here. What was the third kind of
It's just dynamic.
dynamic?
Dynamic.
Okay. Go ahead.
And
go
really
there.
that's just faster, more athletic motions.
Okay.
Where we can kind of see like, oh, force is moving in these directions this way.
Okay.
You know.
Now, Doug talked about you being real creative and that he came to you and there was something that he was struggling with, or he had a little limitation or pain, or I can't remember exactly how he put it, but you were real creative in coming up with a solution to that, like an exercise or a movement that would address that particular issue. That's a big part of what you do, kind of diagnostically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You know, my main goal for folks is pain-free and efficient
Pain-free.
movement.
There
That's
you
it.
go.
That's our slogan, our motto, if you will. But
Okay.
Doug came to me with something that he felt in his body, and we sort of diagnosed it and came up with a drill that would help us control the feedback and get
Okay.
him where he wanted to be.
Okay.
And I think it's working.
Yeah, he's got wonderful range of motion and so forth, and I'm learning a lot myself personally about taking better care of my feet, things like that are helping me, and I do have an artificial right hip, which is 15 years old, and when I see people jogging on concrete, I know they're headed for one, because it was bone on bone, and there's not a whole lot they can do with that. So how does this, one thing I was going to ask you is, how do people obviously get in touch with you? What is the name of your business? The way to inquire about using your services?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, like you mentioned, I am an instructor, swing instructor at the Performance Golf Center at the Highlands. That is part of what I do. But my fitness company is called Biokinetics, and it's just biokinetics, the study of movement in biological organisms. Something super nerdy, but I liked it at the time when I started it. But it's biokineticstx.com.
Okay.
You can also go to biokineticsfitness.com as well.
Okay.
But yeah, that's me. We're Biokinetics TX on Instagram, and on my website, my cell phone number's on.
Now, are you at the Frisco Trails Golf Club? Or?
The Trails Frisco Golf Club, yes,
Okay,
sir.
Trails of Frisco.
That's where our headquarters is. We have a gym built out on the side of the building.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah. Is Paul still working out there?
Paul Goring, I believe.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah.
I ran into him.
I always
at a
call him
tournament.
Pablo, but I haven't been out there in several years. He was just one of my favorite people to.
He's not at the trails anymore, but
Colorful guy.
I'm not sure where he's at now.
Yeah,
But
he's played a lot of mini tour golf through the years. Stuff
he
like
has.
that.
I remember seeing him at a tournament. He stuck par 3 to 3 feet, from 180 yards. I was like, gosh, that was what a dart.
Well, somebody said, if it's breezy, swing easy. And I thought, no, Paul says if it's windy, swing like Cindy. But he's a great guy. He's a great guy. So you would evaluate people out there.
Yes, that's
The
where we do
biokinetic part of it.
Our fitness assessments, yes.
Yeah. I guess we're going to kind of morph a little bit here, but I was telling you before we got started, I'm going to go ahead and go there because I'm a big fan. I went to SMU, and so I was a huge fan of Payne Stewart's. I knew Payne; he was of my era, and so I liked this guy that I call BDC, and so I'm leaving the other day, and a guy walks in with this beautiful white dog, German Shepherd, and first thing I'm looking at, is that a friendly German Shepherd? You know, I didn't get to be this old by being stupid, you know, as far as dogs are concerned. And of course it was friendly. And then I noticed, I said, "Hey, you got a Crushers logo." And then he got a little closer and looked at me, and I said, "Oh, Bryson." So Bryson DeChambeau was hitting golf balls at the Highlands Performance Center. And that's another free plug for my friends out there. I love that place, by the way. I buy the card, and it entices me to hit more balls. But he's very famous for his body transformation. And I noticed he's not as heavy as he was. He's not little. Shaking his hand allowed me to realize why he uses the big grips. He's got big hands, big, strong hands. But just speak to that a little bit, how he was able, through his, you know, he's a physics major, he studied it, he got bigger and stronger. And I guess my lead-up question is, how can a guy 70 years old, you know, I've taken off some weight, but how can I put muscle back on without, like I told you, I always looked at trainers like Nazis, man. I don't want all that. I just want to do my little routine.
Yeah.
But maybe your little routine is not going to get you anywhere. I don't know. But talk about transforming your body, and then talk about how you can do it for an older guy, perhaps.
Gotcha.
That's a lot to talk about.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah,
To unpack. I'm a firm believer that movement is medicine. I just think that moving more, there's just too much research I can call upon that it's going to create enormous benefit in your life, not just physical, but
mental
you know,
too, right? And emotional.
absolutely. Emotional, mental, you know, just stress reduction. And now they know that your muscles are endocrine organs, hormonal organs, and they're secreting things, and there's a lot going on that I don't even think we really have unpacked everything as far as how good fitness is for you. Bryson is definitely a unique individual, super nice guy. He's come out to hit balls quite a bit at the Highland Center, and we love seeing him every time. But you know, he's had a different couple of phases in his fitness career, and that's what I think that I'd like to share with other people is you're going to go through phases. Yeah. You know, but you got to keep trying to figure out what works for you. And you know, I think Bryson would tell you that there's maybe some things he does now that he didn't do back then, and some things he's, you know, started that he wishes he had started earlier, you know. And I can't really speak to a ton of what his regiments have looked like. I've definitely read a few things and seen a few things, and I know that his trainer is a really, really smart guy. I've studied some things that he's written as well, but you know, as far as what he's doing, he does a lot of speed training, as far as I can see, and I think that's, you know, just a testament to his, you know, step into the long drive world. Yeah. And really his success at a lot of even, you know, the major championships that he has, you know, taken home. So
his is so far now. Yeah.
Oh, he is, but, and he's so consistent. And but that was another stroke of his, what I would say brilliance for his own swing was him reinventing, you know, to his one plane type world. And rebuilding his clubs in a way that no one had ever done before, you know. The guy is smart, he's a pioneer, and you know, I value every conversation I get to have with him.
That's good. Yeah, I remember saying early on that, you know, he probably would have been a great player being totally conventional, just because he's very gifted. But it was Dean Overturf, who's a great senior golfer that I admire a lot. He said, but he believes in it. And that's the key, and he has taken it to another level. Yeah, what about getting stronger as you're older? Yeah.
That is definitely something that, you know, I know a lot of folks are concerned about, you know, loss of muscle over time, right? And what I would definitely say is up the protein intake. I know it's cliche to say it, but every single person I've eval'd over a certain age, they're just not hitting enough numbers on enough protein, I would say. That's a big deal.
Really, that's interesting.
It is. It
Nutrition.
is. Nutrition is big up there. Hydration's big up there. I try and push people to drink a little bit more water, and those are real simple things you can do. But
Can't argue with that.
there is. There's
I went
a lot
to the
of good.
hospital in August. I thought I was drinking a lot of water.
Yeah.
I wasn't drinking enough.
Well, hydration's not just about water. There's a complex relationship between salts, water, and amino acids, and we have to sort of tap into that relationship as well. So making sure your water is maybe a little bit mineralized, spring water versus a purified water, reaching for those things over time can help you as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, in a practical sense, okay, more spring water. What about more protein?
Yeah.
Almonds?
I think natural forms of protein kind of outweigh the supplements for sure.
Okay.
I think the amino acid profiles of natural proteins are going to be better utilized by your body.
Amino acid profile.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Like a steak is going to have a different relationship of amino acids versus like a piece of chicken, red meat versus white meat, or
Peanut butter.
yes, peanut butter will have a different one as well, right? But
Okay.
I think your body's going to recognize those. Sometimes I would say the protein powders, there is some toxins that can leak into those, and you got to be careful about your sourcing and what type of protein it's coming from and where they're harvesting it. But just making sure you have good protein in your meals, and I would say for people of that age group that, finding exercises that challenge you but don't overstress you.
Okay.
So tell me, you seem to think or have ran into some trainers that, you quoted as Nazis.
Doing like, what do they call them? Bridges, or what do they?
Like glute bridges or
No, just where you
planks?
planks. Yeah, I don't like planks, but I do like doing 10 minutes on a rowing machine. That has to be doing something for my central area, my gut. I don't go to the gym as much as I should. I enjoy it when I do. I can't do it without listening to music, but I can do the cycle. I did read where the cycle is not bad for your knee, as opposed to I like to walk 2 miles on flat ground. That is bad for your knee because it's, it aggravates it a little bit if you've got a little something going on there. So rest is important. But I guess what I'm asking is it a lot of repetition or is it more weight? What would help actually add muscle as you're older?
I would definitely say, maybe as a trainer and as a coach, my foot is always on the brake because my brain just goes in 8 different directions.
Okay.
But, I would say less worries about what the numbers of weights that you're pushing.
Okay.
So it's not about creating a ton of movement and a lot of weight, but it is, I would say, if you're finding weights that you're comfortable with, I would say the volume is super important at that age. If you're doing...
I mean the number of repetitions.
Yes. If
Okay.
you're doing...
So if you're doing 30, you might try to work it up to 50 or 60
right.
with the comfortable weight.
You can, but if you're doing 30 reps, that's, compared to the guys that are trying to create like hypertrophy or more muscle, their rep ranges will end up being smaller than 30 reps, right?
Yeah.
So if you're doing 30 reps, well, you might grab 2 or 3, 4, 5 more pounds, and you might hit 20, 23, But as long as you're staying above 15 to 20 reps, I don't think that you're in danger of hurting anything.
So would your overarching recommendation, you said movement is paramount. It's just move more often. They say the recliner is today's smoking. Have you heard that?
I have.
Yeah. In other words, and I love my recliner, but once you get in that recliner, you're pretty. static or whatever you want, however you want
Yeah.
to say it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if you don't use it, you lose it, right?
Right.
You know,
You just
and
gotta
making
move.
sure you use it, and even experimenting and having fun moving around and figuring out, oh, I can move this way, or I can do something more, you know. And I think that people forget that fitness isn't just about, you know, doing a bunch of planks or
Yeah.
getting 90 seconds on your plank versus a minute. It's about, you know, challenging your body in new ways, you know. And I think you mentioned Doug, and I think Doug's really good at this. He finds things that he wants to do movement-wise, and he talks about how to create them. So he comes to me with, like, I don't feel like I'm doing this well. And we sort of say, how do we get you there? You know, what's happening to stop you from doing that? And, you know, as much as I try to be a resource of information, Doug's done a lot of the work trying to figure his own swing out, just through repetition and through exploring it in his mind and reaching him to resources on the internet and doing a lot of those things. And I just get to come alongside him in that process, which is fun.
Yeah, and that's why he's a great musician too. He practices.
Yes.
He works at it. Yeah, but he loves it. I just had John Grace on here, and John Grace, he's won everything you can win. And the thing he talked about that was so noteworthy to me was his practice habits are 80% short game, 20% ball hitting. I would say most amateurs are the opposite of that, myself included. However, I will say this, in my defense, a lot of what I feel to be exercise, movement, is hitting golf balls, because I think it enhances my flexibility. If I quit hitting balls, I think I'd lose. I think as you get older, you lose flexibility. I remember talking to Tim January, or might have been Richard, the younger of the two, and you know, they lost their dad, but he was 90, almost 93, so he lived a full life. He was sharp up until the very end, and they said their mom said that golfers live a long time because they're outdoors in fresh air moving their arms around. And so just play golf, get out and play and move, and
that's actually a great point.
Yeah.
Is, you know, golf in itself, I love it because it's an active sport, it's outside, it's great, but basically I know there's a lot of trainers that say, hey, don't do this movement, or don't do this, or don't do that. Really all movement is good.
Okay.
You know, and someone who's doing a squat could either be hurting their knees or making them better. You know, someone who's walking on flat ground, you know, I would argue that there's some relationship in your joints that's making your knees hurt while that's happening. But sometimes walking can be some of the most healing thing that you can do for your body.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love it. And now that my feet are better, I want to go back and play in Ireland. And you know, when you don't ride a cart over there. You do if you have a medical excuse, but I feel like if you have a medical excuse, then you're going to miss the fun of Ireland. That's walking those golf courses, and they're not as hilly as some areas, so it's not as hard as some areas. But so you do the evaluation, and then what about the golf swing? Talk a little bit about your work, your understanding of the golf swing, and just maybe some things. Let's finish up on the physical therapy part, or the physical fitness. You do an evaluation, then what do? You set up a potential regimen for someone, or what's the follow-up on that after you're evaluated?
So the evaluation basically gives us a large amount of data about how you move.
Okay.
And from there, we can usually figure out, oh, we've got an issue we probably put one at the top, that's the most pressing, or that will give us the most return on our investment for time working on, right? And then what I do is I create a program that I think will help them to solve that issue.
Oh, wow.
And that's how your fitness program is made.
Okay.
You know, and then from there, it's just about kind of doing the work, running through the motions, and, you know, making sure we're feeling and doing the right things in our exercises. And, you know, then we reassess. That's a big portion of my practice, is making sure that we actually make an impact.
Okay.
So we retake that assessment probably 4 to 6 weeks after we start, and we make sure that we've made a little bit of progress there.
Okay.
in a trackable and traceable way.
Okay.
So that's kind of how the fitness portion of it works.
Okay.
As far as the golf swing goes, that's a large question. You
It's
know,
a big kettle of fish. Huh?
it is. It is. The golf swing's such a beautiful thing, and it's taught me so many things over the years. And as soon as you think you got it figured out, it has a way of humbling you. You know, but
Yeah.
I think the golf swing's a beautiful athletic motion that everyone does in a pretty unique way. I think that
It's like a thumbprint, and it's unique to the person. Yeah.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. And I think there's no one right way to swing a golf club. That's not how I teach. That's not how I create the fitness programs. You know, your swing is your swing, you know, and there are certain, you know, ideas we got to humor that are going to injure people. So we got to make sure they're healthy. But, you know, the golf swing, I think it really sort of tests your body in a way where you can't be too tense, but you can't be too relaxed. You can't, you know, be too closed, and you can't be too open. You can't do this, and it's this large balance act. And I think it's such a great teacher to teach you a great deal of things, not just about the game of golf, but about
Are you
life.
big? Are you big on the video and the TrackMan and so forth? Because I had a guest, a wonderful teacher who doesn't like that. She wants you to play by feel as opposed to numbers. But you're of the numbers generation, right? Yeah.
I hate to say guilty. Our generation really does like numbers.
Right.
I think TrackMan can be a tremendous tool.
Okay.
I would say 99.9% of the time,
Okay.
when I am teaching someone with TrackMan or with FlightScope, we're looking at one metric. And just the visual feedback of one thing, like, oh, this worked, this didn't. This worked, this didn't. Say if someone's got a, you know, big draw swing, you know, they're big in to out swingers, right? And we're trying to neutralize that path of their golf club, make it straight, you know, and I think having that number on the screen and them getting repetitions at trying to, oh, this is what 0 feels like versus 6 degrees right. You know, this is what it feels like. I think it can enhance feel. I also think that, you know, people can get way too wrapped up in the numbers. They're looking at 3 different things when they hit every shot, and then we're not really making any headway. We're just kind of tearing ourselves apart. So yes and no.
You know, I cited this example in a previous show, but I think it's so telling. I love this place called Swanee's down in Houston, and it's a driving range and restaurant. They have real good food. It's a place where we typically meet for lunch down there, and it was an old par 3 course there, not too far from Champions Golf Club in Houston, and they made a driving range out of it. And I remember going there and hitting balls, and it was real pretty. They had a lot of trees out in there where the golf course was. And I came back there about a year later, and they had put up some screens and everything, and there was no more area to hit to out there. It was all hit sideways into a screen about 100 yards away. And I said, "What's this all about?" They said, "Well, the kids just want to look at the numbers." I said, "What?" Well, they can tell. They hit balls and look at their phone and tell what the ball did, right? Now, kind of explain that to me, yeah. Or am I throwing you a curve?
You're throwing me a curve too, because my childhood was my dad dropping me off before work at the golf course.
Yeah.
You know, $15 in my pocket for a sandwich, a bag of chips, and a Coke, you know, and I'd go play 18, and we'd come back, have lunch, we'd go play another 18, walking with a bag on my shoulder, you know, and the
Doesn't get any
kids,
better than that.
oh,
yeah,
some of the best summers of my life.
Yeah.
You know, but nowadays the kids, you know, they really do love seeing it on a screen. And I think it's large form or fashion, it is a great way to engage them from, you know, tracking something that they really get excited about, you know, and giving it to them that way. I think at some level we have to keep putting them outside as well. But you know, the technology over the last 10 years, it's everywhere. You know? It's kind of, you know, there's a lot of trends. I guess nowadays I'm seeing more golf simulator garages pop up. You know, more simulators in homes, and even as a business, you can go rent time on a TrackMan simulator and play around in 2 hours instead of 4 hours, and I like the proliferation of the game. I like spreading the game.
Right.
And I want people to remember that there's just nothing like playing it in real life a little
Right.
bit.
Well, Doug has a simulator, and it actually helped me because I had 2 or 3 sky drives. Of course, it's different swinging indoors off of a mat with a tee up there, but I think it did. He even commented, he said, I think, or maybe I commented, I must be very steep. I wouldn't be hitting it, popping it up like that. And so the next time I played outdoors, I thought, try to make it a little more flat with the driver, and I was hitting the drivers really well, and I don't know, so it may have helped a little bit, but you're right, that is even a more current generation than yours that's preoccupied with these numbers. And I did notice, I'll plug another range, which I don't go to now because they've done this. That's the Golf Ranch over at UT Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
They built all these sheds out there where I used to hit balls, and I don't want to go in a shed and look at a video. I want to go out and hit balls and watch them in the air, and so
I think it's good and bad,
Yeah.
At the Golf Ranch in particular.
yeah,
The simulators can kind of show maybe amateur golfers or new golfers things that we already see. Like we don't even shot tracer on the Golf Channel, right? I can kind of watch their ball and see where it's going. Even as an instructor, I can kind of see how their swing was and sort of predict where it's going.
Sure.
But a lot of people who can't see those things, it is nice to have some of those animations on the screen. And you look at, the rise of Topgolf and how much people are having fun with that.
Yeah.
It does give, an illustration to maybe things that experienced golfers like you and I already kind of see.
Well, yeah, the shot tracer. How did we ever watch golf without that?
I love it. It's incredible.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw it, and Tiger Woods was playing at Torrey Pines when he won with a broken leg, and he would hit these shots, and they would leave the screen. The tracer, they didn't have they weren't. It was rather new then, so the tracer would go off to the right, and you think, oh my God, he's hit it 20 yards right of the green, and it goes up there by the hole. And he was hitting a real draw in there, and you just don't forget stuff like that. Well, remind us again how people can get in touch with you. It's biokinetics.com.
Yes, sir.
And kinetics is Kinetics.
Correct.
Bio, we should be able to spell that B-I-O. Mm-hmm. Kinetics, TX.
Yes.
That is your company, and you will do an evaluation, set up a follow-up,
Yes.
see how they're doing. And you'll use some type of dynamic, no, not dynamic, what was the term where you do the squat? That's the first one.
That's the active assessment.
Active assessment.
We'll go through some active movements, some passive movements on the table.
Well, this is selfish, but I will just say, Doug said you said he comes with a certain thing, and yeah. Well, one of the things that I hate about my body and my situation right now is my buddy says, it looks like you have dysplasia. I'm not sure I have that, but when you have I had a hip resurfacing, not a total replacement, resurfacing, and I had an accident and it popped out once, but you begin to favor it. So this leg's always coming in. Is that something you could design a program to help correct? Within reason, yeah.
There's definitely things we can do to make you feel more resilient.
Okay. I like that word.
For sure.
I like that word. Yeah.
Having a little bit of, there's obviously things that have been done with the structure of the hip that, we can't do much about. Right? But
there's a big hunk of metal in there.
Well, that's what
But I can tie my shoes and I can put on a sock, and I couldn't do that before then.
Yeah.
Although if I had to do it over again, I probably would have gotten the total replacement versus the resurface. But I was 55 at the time. It was kind of a younger person's hip issue, my cousin had it, and snow skied afterwards after he rehabbed, and I thought, my gosh, but I wouldn't dream of doing something like that now, because I've had it pop out once and it'll ruin your day. But anyway, but that's coming to you with something and we'll address that, right? Yeah.
We will do what we can. Absolutely. I think there's things everyone can do to feel more balanced, more resilient in their daily movement. I love it.
Well, I noticed your dad's still swinging the club well. I don't know how much he plays or how much he hits balls, but I noticed him at the end of the range there, and he looked like he was still swinging pretty well at it.
You know, he's been doing a lot of good work in the gym by himself, and he's always loves to get out there and hit a few. He's hasn't played as much as he has, and I think he's trying to play more now. But he was a great teacher for sure.
Well, I want to know what I've forgotten to ask you, but since we've talked a lot about Doug, and since I have a nickname for him, which is Bernhard, you must look at Bernhard Langer and say, this is what resiliency is. This is what fitness is. Now, I know he does yoga, he does a lot of stretching, but he's a bit of a freak, really. I mean, to be at his age, playing that well. And then I don't know if you happened to watch him when he won his 6th tournament or 7th? I think it's 47th. He broke the record. Did you happen to watch that U.S. Open from Minnesota? Or Wisconsin? Was it?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, because Stricker and Jerry Kelly were the hometown favorites.
Right.
He putted everything from off the green. In other words, he didn't want to chip a ball and still won. Played around his weaknesses, if you will. But I guess knowing your game and knowing what you can do and what you can't do. And
yeah, for sure. And you know, I think Bernhard's a strong guy.
Yeah.
But I think that he's sort of learned what works for his body, right? And yoga is part of that. You know, some of our strong guys, a mobility workout, something that's just stretching, can be all they need as a workout. Some folks that come in the gym, it's not a strength issue. It's just a range of motion issue, right? And so a lot of times our workouts just look like range of motion workouts. Can you rotate? Can you hinge? Can you do some of these things, right? And a lot of the tour players that, you know, we think about as great players are technically really mobile guys, really flexible guys, right? And you know, they're not going to always benefit from that same type of workout. They need a little more stability. They need a little bit more strength work. They need something different. So I say different strokes for different folks, but you know, you got to learn what works for you, and Bernhard's an amazing testament.
Before we wrap up, you mentioned a word I want you to expound on a little bit, and that is stability.
Yes.
Because that's huge in golf, isn't it? Balance.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Balance is huge. You know, if your brain doesn't feel stable, there's a large body of evidence that it won't display power because it feels like it's going to get hurt.
Okay.
So if you don't feel balanced through your swing, you're not going to be able to adapt to new pressures. You know, if your foot loses a little bit of footing, if you're on an uphill or a downhill slope, a side hill slope, your brain's not going to feel good about where it is in space. And so stability can be such a game changer for a lot of people. There's a famous trainer, his name's Colby Wayne, works with like Justin Thomas. I mean, the list of people that this guy works with is incredible. He's a guy I like to study, but he says the same, Colby Wayne.
Colby Wayne.
He kind of works
out. COLBYWAYNE.
Yes.
Okay.
Works out of Florida, out of Joey D Performance from back in the day, and he says the season favors the stable, you know, and he has a bunch of sort of mantras on social media about that. But I think stability is so key. The season favors the stable.
The season favors the stable.
Yep.
Oh my. Okay.
And it's just something I like seeing on Instagram. It's just, as another trainer, I like to follow him and learn some things. But
well, I have to share one little anecdote, if you will. I know, but I did have a good 9 holes, and I was riding with a gentleman there, and I had hooked the tee ball, but the grass had slowed it down, and it wasn't too far in the rough, and it was sitting up nicely. But I had almost a baseball swing. The ball was so far above my feet, and it was about a 140-yard shot to where I was trying to hit it. And so in my mind still thinks, you know, it might fly, so an 8-iron, you know, and I'm thinking, no, if you don't hit it just right, you know, that big bunker in front, it's death. And So I told Jerry, I said, I need one more club, I think, and this is a real baseball swing. And I said, I hope I hit it like a Texas Ranger.
Ooh.
Yeah, because the Rangers had just won the World Series, and I don't know, taking that extra club, I didn't swing as hard. I had a beautiful shot up there, 20 feet from the hole. And sometimes you're just having a good day. But I think a lot of it was what you're talking about, was I felt stable. I felt, okay, it's above my feet, but I've got a good stance, the ball's sitting up, and I've got enough club, so just make a good swing. And I know Sandra Haney was in here. This is redundant maybe to some people, but her whole thing is she won 42 LPGA events, 4 majors, and she feels like that organize your thinking, that most good shots or bad shots are hit before you ever swing. And like you're saying, if you don't feel stable or what have you.
Yeah. I would say that, the biggest deficit of my golf game is mental. I mean, I had my high school coach, one day said, Kevin, I don't know how you have that good of a swing and that bad of a score. But, and I knew it was up here. And it's always been my struggle.
I think I know that gentleman you're talking about.
Yes.
Trinity Christian?
Yes, sir. Marshall.
He's a wonderful person.
We love him.
I've been wanting to have him on this show, yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love it. He's such a great guy, and, he's taught me a lot of things.
Yeah.
I learned a lot of great lessons from him.
Yeah.
But, mentally, that's been the biggest triumph of my game. But, I've been working with a woman named Marissa Baena, who was an LPGA player for 10 years. And she talks about organizing your thoughts the same exact way. And she has had many
the same terminology?
She does.
Yeah, wow.
She does.
Yeah.
And if your thoughts aren't organized before you get into your shot, and you don't even organize them after, that's how the tour players beat you, is making sure that you're resolute with your swing before you start.
Yeah.
Trusting yourself a little bit.
And you can't do it every time, but if you do it more often than not, you're going to play better. That's good stuff.
I agree.
Anything else I forgot to ask? You've been a pleasure. It's been fun to talk to a younger man. It's been real fun.
Well, I'm just blessed to be here. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, and don't know your dad real well, but I've always enjoyed talking to him and running into him, and so it was a real pleasure seeing him at the range. And then knowing that you guys know Doug made it just really complete, because I don't know how we got reintroduced. It was at the little reception for his cousin that passed away 2 or 3 years ago. I hadn't seen Doug in many years. I grew up in Tyler, and we became reacquainted. Since we're both living in the Metroplex, we've played some golf together. And I have to say this, even though I shouldn't. He made one of the great comments to me of all time: "Quit being a victim." I was whining about my golf game. Yeah, just own your golf game, right? And Sandra said another thing: I can only do the best that I can do today. It might be a good round, it might be a not so good round, but I can just try to do my best today. And that's kind of being nice to yourself, and not that you're giving up, but that you're not going to beat up on yourself, so to speak. Yeah.
I love that. Wise words.
Right.
Wise words.
Right. Well, thank you, Kevin Hay, and that is biokinetics.tx.com. Kevin at biokinetics.tx.com.
That's right.
Get you an evaluation set up with him. Y'all probably won't recognize me next year. I'll be looking like Bryson. No, I won't. But it's better to always have a goal for fitness. And I guess the bottom line is get moving out there. Move, right?
Movement is medicine.
Movement is medicine.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
You
Yes,
bet.
sir.
And ladies and gentlemen, that does it for episode 7 with Kevin Hay. And he also instructs golf at the Highlands Golf Performance Center.
Yes, sir.
And we'll be back next week with episode number 8. Until then, hit it where they mow.